Now, welcome to Highlights from Microsoft Build 2021. We have a packed agenda today to talk about some key insights from the event that will help you expand your skill set, find technical solutions, and innovate for the challenges of tomorrow. Moving on to the agenda, we will be hearing from 9 speakers talking about different technologies that were highlighted during the digital event. For any additional resources, you can check out the aka.ms link on the screen or scan the QR code. Oh, I see that the screen that's being shared at the moment doesn't have those slides up, so I'll just quickly share as well. Our next speaker, who will be Anthony, will be going right after me, so he just has his slides queued up. All right, so that's the agenda on the screen at the moment. You can scan that QR code. It leads to any of the resources that are being shared. You can scan that and learn about Microsoft Reactor events and the Developer Digital Meetup Tour. So first up, we have Anthony Giretti, who will be covering .NET 6 and ASP.NET Core 6 and C# 10. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Anthony Giretti. I'm Senior Software Lead Developer at OneOcean. I'm based in Montreal. I'm Microsoft MVP, and you can follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn. So what's new today in the .NET ecosystem? It's .NET 6, ASP.NET Core 6, and C# 10. Let's go. So as you may know already, .NET 5 has been released last year, and .NET 6 is the next release of the unified platform initiated by .NET 5. So .NET 5 is releasing in next November, and it will be a LTS version of .NET, unlike .NET 5. What's new in .NET 6? Really major and very interesting new feature is a support in Android and iOS through MAUI, the .NET Multi-Platform App UI. So you can now develop on the top of Xamarin .NET 6 app on iOS and Android. Another big feature is the support of Blazor Desktop, which is called behind the scene Blazor Hybrid Apps with MAUI. It's a version of Blazor which runs in parallel with MAUI, and you can develop desktop apps, amazing .NET apps with Blazor. Very, very great feature. What's new? Big performance improvement. Apps will run faster, more than .NET 5. .NET 5, which ran very faster than .NET Core 3. We have also RN64 improvements, and the major thing is the support of Windows Forms and WPF on Windows. So that's really great, and it wasn't the case on .NET 5. And many other improvements, such as containers, there are layer, new themes, new .NET CLI commands, streaming serialization and deserialization with async enumerable, link queue, logging, etc., etc. ASP.NET Core 6 ships obviously with .NET 6 and brings a very great new feature like AOT, ahead of time compilation for Blazor assembly, hot reload. So now you're able to update your UI and your code without losing your app state, so you don't need to restart your application. Single file publishing, you are able now to deploy very performant, small and standalone services in a very, very, very small single file. .NET 6 brings as well better SPA support. So the latest version of Vue.js, React, and Angular. And the support of HTTP3. The major improvement in .NET ASP.NET Core 6 is the minimal API. So .NET 5 introduced root to code, so minimal APIs, but in ASP.NET Core 6 it's lighter. So you don't need a file such as startup.cs. You can program and publish very, very lightweight services within the program CS file itself. So a single file could be enough to expose some services, such as web APIs. Very great feature. And C# 10. So C# 10 came with .NET 6. For using C# 10, you'll need Visual Studio 2022, and you can already try C# 10 with the preview 2 of Visual Studio 2022. What feature do we have? Null parameter checking. Normally, it was previously be shipped with C# 9, and that feature has been delayed to C# 10. So what are null parameter checking? It's a really simple way to check parameters. On your left, you can see you test if your parameter is null. If it's not, you make some treatment. If it's null, you throw yourself an exception. With the null parameter checking, you don't need, and you gain 5 lines of codes, if I can tell that. Next feature, the new required modifier. So this required modifier brings a new parameter check when a class is initialized. So if you miss to initialize a property in a class or a record, you'll have an error at the runtime. So you will have an exception. So the parameter is required in red here. Another great feature, C# 9 introduced init property only on records. In C# 10, you can use init only properties on classes. A new tricky one, new field modifier on classes and record. In order to simplify assignation of a private property, as you see on your left there, you just need to remove the private property and the assignation to the private property, the value in the set modifier. You can simplify this by using the keyword field equal value, and it does the same. And you don't need to return the property, the private property in the get modifier. It's implicit. You don't need to specify it. So very interesting. Another new thing that C# 10 brings is file scope namespaces. So in the same file, any class you declare under the namespace will belong to that namespace. So you gain some lines of code, and the code is lighter. And another great one feature with C# 10 is the global using. So now you just need, in the same project, for example, only one file, you can declare all the using and the namespace you need within your project by adding the global keyword, and every file you create in that project will import that using. So you just need a single file, you declare once the namespace you want to add to your project, and that's it. So it's a really great feature. I'm excited to work with. So that's it. Thank you for following me, listening to me, and you can reach me anytime if you have any question. Thank you again.
Perfect, thank you. And our next speaker is Olivier. Olivier, you can say hi, you're live now.
Hi everyone, thanks Eamon, and thanks Anthony for that great walkthrough of the new things in .NET Tech, C# and so on. That's pretty interesting. I don't use C# a lot. I'm part of the IoT team, and I do things in the world of IoT. So I'm not sharing my screen, so unless you can, if I'm featured right now, because I'm gonna actually show my slides like that in my image. So hopefully we have me featured and you can see it. So I'm part of the Azure IoT team. I'm a community PM, and my role is to share information about what's going on in the IoT world of Microsoft, and also gather feedback around communities, and make sure that our product teams are all good with your feedback and take action on that. You can find me on Twitter, and you can also follow the IoT show. I have a chance to follow over here, to host, over here on ak.ms/IoT show. So I have many slides here, but what I wanted to do is give you an insight into the evolution of IoT. Where we came from, connecting devices, making them smarter, and now we are at the era what we call the digital twins. And there's a new term that was tagged during the events this year during Build. It was metaverse, and that's something that Satya came up with Sam George, our CVP for IoT, where basically we're building these metaverse apps and solutions, or we're allowing our customers to do that. But let me show you how that's taking shape and where we're coming from. And oops, not the right one, my bad. And how real this is becoming. You've heard a lot about intelligent cloud, intelligent edge. I don't need to rehash that. So something that is part of how our customers are and you are going through digital transformation by building solutions that span across intelligent edge and intelligent cloud. Now, no solution is in a silo where you don't have one or the one of the elements on its own. It's actually now both of them systematically. This is shaping to become something that we're calling digital twins, especially related to the IoT space. And that's a better mental model than intelligent edge, intelligence cloud, because it doesn't really help. And that was very, theoretical. Here, it's becoming more real with that notion of digital twins that I want to explain a little here. Intelligent edge, intelligent clouds, they are now allowed to be connected, to be interconnected, I would say, where you're able to create digital representation of the real world, of the real environment. Your edge, the environment itself, is filled with sensors, filled with information, and you need to interact with that. And what better way than to create a model that is digitalized and that you can interact with in the cloud? And that's what digital twins are about. So what can you do with digital twins, right? Let's talk about the functionality. The first, and it's certainly a prerequisite for the other ones, is the ability to synchronize this physical environment with the digital environment you're creating. And I like these slides because they're very futuristic. What I like even more is towards the end, you'll realize how real that is becoming and taking shape because of all the products and services that we are releasing, and that are starting to work together to allow this digital twin scenarios and the implementation that you'll make out of them. So this first functionality is provided by some services we'll talk about, but it's about really synchronizing that physical environment and digital environment. You can do that. There's like very much like communication technologies and protocols that are available for that synchronization to happen in real time, and for having the digital environment systematically and constantly in sync with the physical one. Once you have the synchronization in place, you can do things like monitor. You can remotely monitor an environment and interact with it. What you can also do is track the past. When you have real-time data, right, you cannot track the past. You're just visualizing that data. So you need to store the time series, and then you're able, once you have a digital representation, you're able to track the past and go back in time, I would say, to analyze past failures, to analyze trends, and so forth. What's very interesting is that when you create a model of a physical environment, what you do is you establish the relationships between the things, between the spaces, between the people, and all of them. And this digital environment is not just a database. It's not just a stack of data. It's actually an ensemble of unstructured data that is put in relation by an engine, by a specific service. And then you have a graph that allows you to navigate through it. So tracking the past through that data becomes very easy once you have a graph that navigates that unstructured data that has been put in relationship thanks to that service. You will then be able to analyze, implement very rich analytics in the cloud in that digital environment. You can apply it to the current data, but you can also apply it to past data. As I was saying, you can go back in time on that data in a very structured way, in a very simple way. So once you can analyze, what you can actually do as well is predict. Once you have all that data about this environment, what you're able to do is start predicting behavior and implement scenarios to do predictive analytics, predictive monitoring, predictive maintenance, and things, this kind of things. This is one of the main scenarios we're seeing out there. Another very interesting one is the simulation. Once you have a digital representation, a digital model of the real environment, you can start putting that environment into a stress situation without risking users' safety, without risking lots of damage and cost in a real environment. But you are in a place where you're very close to the real environment in that digital one, and you can implement very rich simulation to test scenarios to make sure that you're super robust on many fronts. That leads to then being able to create autonomous control. You have systems that you've been simulating, testing in a very advanced way, very close to reality. And so it becomes easier to then deploy intelligence that's been trained on models that are digital into the real world. And that's one of the main scenarios as well of digital twins after simulation, training models in digital environments to redeploy into a physical environment. And now you're starting to think about how can you merge these two worlds, and how can you start interacting? I think some people are talking about like someone cutting the video. I think this is what messing up was me not being full screen, something like that. Hopefully it's going to get resolved in the back. So once this physical and digital environments are set, synchronized, and are allowing you to work on the digital environment as well as interact with the physical one, well, now you have a whole new way of interacting with this model, with this digital twin. I can, if you want, I don't know if anyone is, I can try and share my screen if you want, so that way maybe I can gain control over the camera here. Let me know if that's useful, Eamon.
Yep. You're great. It's all working well. We can see everything.
Oh, okay, cool. I was like seeing some chat internally. Sorry, everyone. We're
no,
just
you're
doing our own thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you have new ways of interacting virtually with a real environment. Think of that, all these mesh and HoloLens scenarios that are enabled because you digitalized, because you created a model of that physical environment into the cloud. And this is where it becomes even more interesting, because now that metaverse is being created thanks to digital twins is something that is actionable. That term comes out of science fiction movie, but in reality, if you look at the stacks of functionality that this metaverse has, all the way from the physical world being connected and synchronized with the digital one, the model that is built with that data, with the information, the way you can monitor, track the past, predict, simulate, and so on, all of that is taking shape in the form of a set of services. So let's look at these services, and I will invite you to go check them out. I will not go into too many details, but I just wanted you to know their existence and realize that this notion of metaverse is a reality, is something that can be implemented and leveraged today. Azure IoT is a set of services that allows to connect securely the devices, monitor and act on that data from the devices, manage and update your devices, as well as secure them. And this is the basics of IoT. Having a cloud gateway allows you to connect these devices to your digital twin in the cloud. A couple of highlights. Azure Percept is a dev kit, allows you to implement intelligent at the edge, comes with a nice camera, nice set of microphones, and allows you to very easily, with no code, create your proof of concept project for intelligent edge. Another interesting technology is around security. Azure Defender for IoT that came up with a way to being able to secure a set of IoT devices and infrastructure without having to deploy any agents. You have a sensor you install on your network that will start sniffing what's going on and will determine the trends, will determine the potential threats, and will allow you to really secure your now connected internet network and infrastructure. On top of IoT, once the data has been collected, you'll have to create that model of that real environment in the digital world. And Azure Digital Twins is named to create digital twins. It allows to put in relation the various things, the various entities that are out there, and create that model, and then offers a graph for you to query that information seamlessly, right? So the sensor is in the room is on the floor is in a building, the building is in a city. And you can access a temperature sensor in a room in a city in a simple, very simple query, and then you can have super powerful applications that act on that data that is offered and is made available by the digital twin. And once you've modeled the real world using DTDL, which is a language that we open sourced, you can start fusing the IoT and business systems. Once you have this graph, you can implement workflows in your business applications based on rules implemented or set on your real environment through the digital twins. You can also extract really rich insights, as was mentioned earlier on. Azure Maps is another good example of technology that will allow you to geolocalize your devices indoor and people indoor as well as outdoor and synchronize this seamlessly with your Azure Digital Twins instances. Synapse Analytics is another good example of a real technology existing today, established, that will allow you to merge the business and the operational intelligence of analytics, analyze data across your business and the digital systems and the IoT systems. Unified all the development as well when it comes to creating that intelligence on top of things. Azure AI, you'll hear about Azure AI later on today. Microsoft Project Bonsai are good examples as well of technology that enable that whole stack of the metaverse that we're building. So I will not spend time on Azure AI because someone smarter than me will talk about it soon. Project Bonsai is an interesting one if you're curious about autonomous systems. It pushes the boundaries of AI and IoT by allowing to create intelligent recommendations based on data coming from sensors to create active autonomous systems. That's pretty interesting to look into. And to complete the story, right, we collected the data, created a model of the physical environment in a digital world, have graphs that allow you to query the data and hook up into business applications. Now you can leverage Power Platforms that will integrate even further into your business workflows. So, look at Microsoft Power Platform and what they allow, because it's pretty powerful. It's pretty interesting to look at, and that enables that scenario. Last but not least, Microsoft Mesh and HoloLens. Once again, out of science fiction movies and books, but that's becoming reality. We're seeing more and more customers want to interact with the real world using digital tools, not to put their workforce in danger, to also being able to remotely interact with physical environment, connect from anywhere. A bunch of scenarios enabled from Mesh and HoloLens technology. So you see all these stacks that come up with actual technology, actual services that work well together, allow you to implement these metaverse solutions. And just to step back a little, metaverse solution is a fantastic world that we'd like to toy around with, but in reality, in practical terms, think about connected store, connected field service, connected guides or remote assist type of things. These are solutions that are enabled today, that are built today, that are metaverse solutions and that allow to go through that digital transformation today, thanks to these digital twins. So you can get started now, thanks to all these new technologies that come on top of the IoT stacks. If you want to learn more, go to azure.com/IoT. You can follow us on the IoT show, and you can check out our blog as well on msiotblog.com. So hopefully we'll see you there. I hope you enjoyed that presentation. It was super fast, lots of things to cover, but I also hope that we'll see you soon on all these resources and platforms. And if you have questions, I'm going to check it now. If there is any, I'm going to try and answer them. Otherwise, have a nice end of day and talk to you soon.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, Olivier. So coming up next, we have Callon Campbell, who will be speaking about Azure Functions. Callon, you're live.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Just get my window here.
Perfect. We'll just put your slides up. Great. You're all set.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Best of Build 2021 Azure. I'll be talking about Azure Function and what was announced. My name is Callon Campbell, a Microsoft MVP in Azure, and you can follow me on Twitter at Flying Maverick. So we'll go over the announcements. I'll do a quick demo and then follow up with Q&A. So this year, Microsoft made 2 announcements related to Azure Durable Functions. The first was Durable Functions for PowerShell is now GA. And the second, they announced 2 new backend storage providers, and that's what I'll be covering and talking about in this short session. So, a quick recap of Durable Functions for those that might not be aware. So, it's an extension of Azure Functions. It allows you to write long-running, reliable, event-driven, and stateful logic, while simplifying complex and stateful coordination in your serverless application. The execution state is saved in an Azure storage account. This ensures that functions can recover automatically if there's any infrastructure failure. And it's really ideal for situations where you have long-running functions, or maybe you have functions that need to chain together. You're doing fan out, fan in. You're doing HTTP APIs asynchronously. You're monitoring. You're waiting on user interaction. So Azure Durable Functions now supports 2 new backend storage providers for storing this durable runtime state. The first is Netherite, and Microsoft SQL Server would be the second, and this has support for Azure SQL database as well. These new storage providers options allow you to run at a higher scale, have greater price performance efficiency, and provide greater portability compared to the default Azure storage configuration. The default Azure storage configuration does have some limitations though. It has limits on the number of transactions per second for a storage account, and has strict size limits for the queue messages and Azure table entities that are being stored. Costs can also be hard to predict since they're per transaction and have very limited support for batching. Also doesn't easily support certain enterprise business continuity requirements, such as backup, restore, disaster recovery without data loss. And it's also limited to just running inside of Azure. So looking at the first one, is Netherite. And if you look at the GitHub repo, Netherite comes from the world of Minecraft and is the name of a raw material that is more durable than a diamond, can float in lava, and cannot burn. My son's pretty excited by that name because he loves Minecraft. Anyways, Netherite storage provider aspires to have similar qualities, but in the context of durable functions. So it was developed by Microsoft Research, and it combines Azure Event Hubs with the faster database technology, which sits on top of Azure Page Blobs. It supports significantly higher throughput. It is more cost-effective for very high throughput loads. So looking at a performance benchmark, this orchestration that's used in this test is a simple function chaining sample, which I'll be showing in my demo, with 5 activity calls running in an Azure Functions Elastic Premium plan. It's just using a single Azure Event Hubs throughput unit. This costs about $22 a month USD on a standard plan. And as you can see, so the blue is Azure storage. So this is the throughput you would currently get right now as you scale out. And then the orange is the performance gain and throughput gain that you'll get with using Netherite. So tremendous input or throughput gain. Now, while Netherite provider was designed for maximum throughput, the Microsoft SQL Server provider for durable functions is designed for the needs of the enterprise. So this includes the ability to decouple from the Azure cloud. So this allows you to run on-prem, allows you to run on edge devices, inside of Linux containers, or inside of Azure SQL database serverless tier. You can even run on competitive cloud providers like AWS and GCP. So this means that you can run your durable functions just about anywhere that Azure Functions can run, including inside of your own Azure Arc-enabled Kubernetes clusters. The design of the Microsoft storage provider for durable functions also makes it easy to integrate with existing SQL-based applications. So when your function app starts up, it will automatically provision a set of tables and functions and procedures in the target database with a DT schema, DT standing for durable task. And this really allows you to easily monitor and orchestrate your entities by running very simple select queries against these tables. So if you've tried using durable functions right now, you have to go through the storage provider and Azure tables, and it's cumbersome. It's not very easy to monitor and dig into the information. So moving to SQL Server is a blessing from the enterprise perspective. Okay, so demo, configuring the storage provider. So what I've done now is I've gone and created a new Azure function app, and I've added a durable function called Hello Cities. So this is pretty much out of the box what you get from Visual Studio. If we go to our orchestrator, you can see here I'm starting up, when I call Hello Cities, it's going to start up a new orchestration. I'm going to call it's going to run these activities, Tokyo, Seattle, London. It's going to return back all three of them as a result. And this is pretty much boilerplate code that you would get. You can see here local settings. So what I'll do is I'll run this just to show you the experience of the standard. And I'll look at and showing host.json. So under extensions, I've added this durable task, and I've given it a hub name. I'll just bring the Azure function runtime window. Okay, so I have my my durable function running. So I'm going to hit a post to this local host, Hello Cities. I'm going to do that from VS Code using HTTP client. And I will get back on the right-hand side. So you see the function that's running. It's going to do all those activities, and then it's going to come back with the final result. So you can see there, the first time it does take a while to run. I run it again, it's much quicker. Again, I am running locally per se, so let me stop that. So that's the default storage provider. So now I'll move on to Netherite. So if I look at the project JSON, so there really is no code changes from your application other than you need to change a NuGet package in your project file, and there's a host.json, but the API that you're coding against are identical, and there's no logical change that you need to make. It's just configuration, essentially. So what I'm doing now is I'm swapping out the durable task NuGet package for the Netherite Azure Functions. This one is in alpha. Same with the SQL Server one. They are in preview, keep that in mind. So that is that change. And under the host.json file, so now I've expanded it out. This is the main one that you want to add. So storage provider, you don't need to specify it when you're dealing with the Azure storage account. But in here now, you specify Netherite, and it needs two connection strings. So one is to the Azure Web Job Storage, and the other one is to the Event Hub connection string.
Hey, Callon, sorry to interrupt you during your presentation. Is it possible to zoom in a little bit on your window?
Yes. Better?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. If anyone has any questions, just shoot afterwards about if they didn't see anything. That's the only changes that I've done. Local setting here. I am using secrets, so I'm not checking in my stuff. But essentially, I put 2 references here. This will be ignored because I'm using secrets, but nothing else has changed. And I will show just where the secret file is. So you can see here I have my connection string to my Event Hub, and I have my connection string to my Azure Web Job Storage. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and run this. So this is actually, I'm running it locally, but it is talking to resources in Azure for my storage account and for my Event Hub. Okay, so it's running. Ooh, the connection was rejected. Okay, I got a little glitch there, so let me shut that down. There is an offline mode that you can run in locally, so there is no, the emulator is in memory, but what you can do is you can change the name of your Event Hub connection, just call it memory, and it will run everything in memory. Oh, that one did work. Okay, I'll go back to it. Sometimes you gotta wait for the Azure function runtime to finish loading. I think I tried hitting it too soon before. Okay, so that's running locally in memory. I'm not talking to any Azure resources. You can see the connection string was commented out, and I said use memory. So when it does that, it will just intercept these 2 and just use everything in memory for you. So let me go back and try the Netherite one that uses online, because that should have worked. It seems to run slower in Teams. But it is executing, just not as fast as I wanted. Trust me, it runs a lot faster. Okay, so let's try that one more time. Hopefully much faster. So there you go. So I'm now 830 milliseconds, 600, so much faster now. So now that's running through, those are running against Azure. Of course, when I deploy this, I'll be deploying into an Azure Function Elastic Premium plan, and you'll get much better performance than running locally. So now let's look at the SQL provider. This one here, I'm just going to show the configuration change. It really, it's the same experience. So what you'll do inside the project file, so we're going to swap out the durable task NuGet package, and we're going to put in the one for SQL Server. This one is in beta. And for the host file, we will provide, the provider will be MS-SQL, and we will provide a connection string name where I'll use this. I didn't actually wire it up to my database, but you can see here, I would have put my secret here for SQL Server. And again, it would just run locally, so, or not locally, but whatever database I'm connecting to, it would have just gone and automatically created any of the database tables, store procs functions that it needs if it doesn't already exist. And then now you're working against a SQL Server backend. And again, that can be deployed anywhere. It doesn't have to be inside of Azure. Okay, so choosing the right option. The choice to use storage providers other than the Azure storage really should be made carefully. So most function apps running on Azure should use a default storage provider for durable functions. It's still the preferred way, and it will be supported. However, there are other use cases where you might need to use something different. Important things to consider are going to be cost, scalability, and whether you want data management trade-offs should be considered. So looking at the three, Azure storage is generally available. It depends on just an Azure storage account v1, very minimal setup, low cost, it works in the consumption plan, Elastic Premium plan, but it doesn't provide any disconnect support. Netherite, it's in preview. It depends on event hubs, also depends on Azure storage account. This one will provide the maximum throughput. Does offer lower cost at scale, no support for the consumption plan. So this has to be run in Elastic Premium. And it does require you to set up the runtime scaling monitor. And there is no disconnect support. I will put in links in my, I'll attach at the end into my PowerPoint, just resources to some of the stuff like the scale monitoring and whatnot. And then for SQL Server, this also is in preview. It supports only SQL Server 2019 or Azure SQL Database. This one will allow you to run it anywhere. So it's very enterprise friendly. No support for the consumption plan. So again, you have to run it inside of Elastic Premium and does require you to set up the runtime scale monitor. But this one is disconnected. So you can run fully like on the edge in another cloud on-prem. You don't need that connection to Azure per se. So just to wrap up, so both of these new providers are in preview, keep that in mind, but they are open, development is continuing, it's on GitHub, so take a look at the samples that they provide and provide feedback and whatnot. It's very valuable for that. And either of these configuration can be configured with no code change. So you didn't see me make any changes. It's other than the host.json file, which you can do in Azure without deployment. The NuGet package, I guess that is technically a code change, but you're not really changing your app. So that's it. My information, if you want to take a screenshot and connect with me after, happy to answer any questions. And that's it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Callon. That was great. Following you will be Roy Kim, who's going to be speaking about Kubernetes. Hello, Roy. Can you unmute your mic?
Hi, how's it going, everyone? Thanks for having me. All right, let me share my screen. Okay. From beginning. Oh.
Yeah, you're all set.
Okay, cool. Let's see here. So, sorry, can I, let me reshare. Share screen. Okay. So, sorry. Okay, let me do that one more time. Share.
Yeah, no worries, Roy. All good.
Okay, how's that? Okay, that's good. All right. So yeah, thanks for having me, everyone. And so I'll be covering kind of build summary updates related to Kubernetes. To introduce myself, my name is Roy Kim. I'm a 5-year MVP, currently in the Azure category. My blog and website is at roykim.ca. Check out my YouTube channel where I have I have some content on Kubernetes and Azure. And so I've been doing Azure kind of like three projects. One made to pretty big production across in a retail sector space, and will talk a bit about my kind of real world experiences relating to these updates where I can. So let's see here. Yep, that's my contact. So, okay. Now, one of the updates coming out from the build was that Azure App Services can now run on Kubernetes clusters anywhere with Azure Arc, right? So, Azure Arc is a kind of a feature, a capability where you can bring in kind of on premises or even multi-cloud in AWS and GCP kind of resources, in this case, deploying into Kubernetes multi-cluster or clusters and bringing that into a control plane from an Azure perspective, right? In the Azure portal, right? So it's really you can think of it as a bunch of agents and proxies sitting in a external cloud or on premises. But in this case, you can have Azure App Services, right, and functions, logic apps, API management running on Kubernetes clusters, okay, and that could be in an on premises, say you deploy into a VMware or bare metal kind of cluster, and you use something called like Rancher to deploy, install Kubernetes kind of natively into that, but bring that experiences into Azure, having it deploying like Azure Arc enabled, right, with agents and such. And the same concept with Azure App Services, functions, logic apps, and API management. So now, one thing I like to say is that, the great benefit and advantage with having Kubernetes is that you can run applications that are, of different platforms, right, or frameworks or languages, whether that be .NET, Java, Node.js, Python, you name it, right? You containerize it, and a Kubernetes platform can run multiple of these services, and working all of that together can be one kind of solution. Now, putting another dimension to that is that, well, what about deploying this across, different platforms, like hosting platforms or cloud platforms, right? And so it being having Kubernetes and Arc enabled, putting those together is that you can extend that across even AWS on premises and GCP and other cloud providers. Now, a scenario could be that I've been kind of introduced with is that, a company may not be ready to go into, let's say, Kubernetes in the cloud, okay, for whatever reasons. Like they have a lot of legacy, they have a lot of, like on-prem investment yet, but they're just not ready to go to the cloud yet, okay? And so a scenario could be, well, they already have an on-prem infrastructure, okay, that's been invested, licensed, but then that's going to go away in about 2 years. But to start the roadmap, they may deploy a Kubernetes cluster on premises, okay, and then a few months later they may in Azure spin up a POC, having it Arc enabled and to control that in a single plane out in Azure. And that's kind of how you bridge that transition from a very on-premises cultured organization to be kind of cloud modernized, right? So that's kind of a use case there. Now, with app services now being Arc enabled, an example here is that, let's say you have your a development team, they're very familiar with Azure Functions or other Azure App Services, right? But for those that have quite a bit of experience with Kubernetes, there is a steep learning curve, and well, at least for me, it was a very steep learning curve, right? Because you have to know about the Kubernetes manifests, deployments, Azure Kubernetes, what the service is, right? Ingress controllers, all this, all that, containerizing, Docker, container registries, the whole DevOps workflow, all that stuff, right? But having, like, let's say app services being Arc enabled, an example use case could be, you spin up a function, Azure function, right? Have that Arc enabled, and really that Azure function that you've created, that can generate into your Kubernetes cluster, let's say an AKS, that will show up as a Kubernetes pod, okay, and can be managed as such, right? And so, that's an example of kind of leveraging that, and that's a pretty cool feature, right? So again, it kind of brings home the whole aspect of flexibility, agility, right? Working with the tools that you're used to, or that an organization or a team is kind of invested in, right? And have their process developed, and and they just spent a lot of time and effort doing it a certain way, and 6 months later, okay, well, they want to do Kubernetes, but they don't want to retool and relearn, it's just too much investment there. So it really helps, making the best of both worlds. And again, eventually, if you want to go with your team to transition to Kubernetes, you start with Azure Functions or web apps, marry the two, and then maybe fully transition to, or just stay using both. Okay, so that's the story there. Okay. Now, here's a diagram of kind of the general architecture, right? So Azure Arc, you extend to on-premises, and you deploy those Azure Arc kind of like local management tools, and you can bring that management in and employ security and compliance, Azure policies, role-based access, and single pane of glass kind of management. Okay.
Hey, Roy, sorry to interrupt you again, but we can't see that diagram. Are you able to click next on your slides?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thanks for mentioning that. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Okay, so so this is the diagram. Okay, Azure Arc and on-premises multi-edge cloud on the right, and your Azure portal and Azure Resource Management. And you can even use the same kind of tools, command line tools, to manage it across these two platforms. Okay, moving on next. Another update is OSM, Open Service Mesh. Okay, it's now in preview. This is pretty exciting. I have a lot more experience when it comes to Istio as a service mesh, right? So just to recap what a service mesh is that when you have, especially in a microservices architecture where you have a lot of applications or services, and they all integrate with another, with another, but you want to manage that, that traffic management, service A talking to service B, and B talking to service C, and then to a database, and etc. Right? And in a microservices architecture, a good use case where a service mesh and where OSM can apply is that, let's say you have service B, and it has all these interdependencies, right, with other services, and you want to deploy a new version, V2. Okay, now with Open Service Mesh, you can deploy V2, okay, but it's not yet live, and then start traffic shifting, okay, either all at once, or 10 and 90%, or 50-50, and to traffic shift the production traffic as you feel comfortable, okay? And if there's an issue, then you can quickly traffic shift back to the previous version. Okay, so in terms of reliability and robustness, you really mitigate those risks, okay, with OSM. So And so this is kind of from a diagram perspective, the front end tier, mid tier. So yeah, like in my scenario, let's say mid tier, you want to swap it. You know, it's a mission critical application, and having a service mesh like OSM really helps kind of mitigate any deployment issues. So these are some of the capabilities with Open Service Mesh, right? So having secure end-to-end communication between microservices. So especially in a very kind of secure or zero security, zero trust model. You know, let's say one department in a bank creates a service, and then another department in the bank creates another service, right? And you need to have some security in between that, right? And there's kind of compliance and regulation, right? The third point here is traffic shifting, as I mentioned, right? And this is and the fourth point here is that it's all pretty much based on the principle or on the premise of Envoy proxy as a sidecar into all your pods, right? Which help manage that traffic and also with monitoring. So so those are the capabilities. Encourage you to try it out. And to conclude, I would say that you know, Kubernetes is a very exciting area for me. It's one of my best experiences you know, working with as a technology in my career. It's tough, it's challenging, but once you get it up and running, there's a lot of capabilities, as I mentioned, that really kind of up the game, especially in the traditional model. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening, and I'll hand it back to you, Eamon.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Roy. That was great. So coming up next, we have Eli Robillard. I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, Eli. And Eli will be speaking about Power Platform. Thank you.
It's close enough for you, and thank you very much. And thanks to everybody else. Great session so far. I get to learn a whole bunch too. My name's Eli. You may know me from such groups as the ASP Insiders or Toronto SharePoint User Group or the Office Dev Bootcamps. I helped those ones get up and running in the early days, and or as a 15-year MVP or a from my Site 3 makerspace. In any case,
Eli, sorry to interrupt you, but we're getting a lot of glitching on your screen. It's green.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's happening there.
If it is, you know what? I can go direct and kill video. Let's try that.
Sure.
I'm going to pause and reshare, and let's see if that cleans it all up.
Yep, sounds good.
Let me kill this. We're going to do a share of...
So according to Olivier, who used OBS earlier in the day, he says if you stop and restart the virtual cam output, it should fix it.
I'm just going to guess that nobody really needs to see my smiling face for the whole thing.
All right, sounds good.
That's okay. Is that better right now?
Yeah, you're perfect.
The screen share is good. Then let's just continue like this, and I'll bring back camera if or when we feel the need. Today we're talking about Power Platform and what's new announced at Build. First question you might be asking, if you've been buried in in Visual Studio for the last year and a half or however long, is what is this and why do I care? Well, if your organization has Microsoft 365, then you have Power Platform. If any of your clients have Microsoft 365, then you have Power Platform. It includes Power BI. It includes for analytics and data mining, and it lets you build rich, clickable interfaces, and you get powerful insights. Power Apps we have now for apps with pages, forms, and data for desktop or mobile. We have Power Automate for process automation, and it helps you orchestrate these processes across all the popular cloud services and any connected endpoints that you might have. And recently, last year now, I guess, Microsoft acquired a desktop automation app that they're simply calling Power Automate Desktop. So this is for not automating orchestration across those cloud services, but this is orchestrating across your desktop with Excel and interfaces, and if you can click it, then you can track it, then you can replay it. And for example, if you're processing a large number of image files, you know, Photoshop has a record and playback. Now you can record and playback for every other app that you have. And then we have Power Virtual Agents, which is a framework for building chatbots and other unattended agents. There are free versions of all of these with most Microsoft 365 licenses. And those versions, those free versions, support most of the scenarios that make sense for either dev or personal use. So, and at the end of this, we'll tell you how you can get a free dev tenant, because unless you're Chuck Norris, it's best not to build in production, and we'll get you there. Additional licenses, the step-up licenses, like where you have to pay extra, they might become necessary as you start sharing your solutions with others. So if you've used Power BI for a long while, you know, right back to SharePoint on-prem days, you may know that you can build a Power BI report. You can view it all you like. It's only when I want to start sharing it with the rest of my organization that I need to have a Power BI license of some kind. So then all of this stuff is built to really serve a wide range of skill sets. You've heard, you know, citizen developers as a term before. Don't be afraid. It really just means the business users who can get part of the job done for you now. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But at the other end of the scale, if Visual Studio is, you know, a second home to you, you're covered too. In great shape here. As we move forward, we get into this thing called fusion development. It's a buzzword. It's in the countryside. They're buzzing about it in the townships, and it really just means we work with the business to build solutions, and sometimes they can contribute to some of the process along the way. So you'll see it make an appearance at Microsoft too, and in a new white paper that was released at Build, it describes how UI and everybody who works with some of these dev tools can work more closely with business than perhaps we do today. Now, so much of what Microsoft does it falls under themes, and so there are really two. The first one is rapid development, and in addition to templates, which are pretty ubiquitous, we're also seeing standard data models. The idea is give us a head start into interop between platforms. If it's a common data element between, let's say, Dynamics and Salesforce and the next three favorite ERP or accounting systems or inventory systems or whatnot, there may be a standard data model for the entities in that domain. So this gives us a head start on the interop between platforms. We're also seeing the second point here, a big investment in AI-powered insights and automation. A push you'll see this year is to build natural language translation. And in building these things into, let's call them the user-facing dev tools for the most part, but we'll see as we get into it how it might be useful to you too. And then there were small forays in the years past. Notably, one was Power BI, where they tried to implement some of these natural language queries, for example. You know, let me frame how I want to look at my data in words, and it will convert that to a function of some sort in the back end, and we'll get deeper on that in a few minutes as well. And then there's a big push also on the giving us pro devs a better experience, really. I mean, connectors are, for APIs, they turn them into something we can build visually with, whether it's working with Logic apps or with Power Automate, which is roughly the same engine on the back end, by the way. It's just different debug tools, just different capabilities around the interfaces. But these connectors that let us plug into different data sources and platforms to listen to triggers and to do things in response, you'll see later on, we've got more power. We can start building these things and participating in that ecosystem. And then Visual Studio got a whole lot of love from the Microsoft Office side of the fence this year. Before, there was a very simple, not wonderful solution model, but it still needed a lot of manual wire up. And even you might have to wire things up with your connectors from release to release. And we didn't have any real hands-on visibility into the code or the packages that were being produced behind the scenes. Although that JSON that sort of describes the flows or the assets that go into the packages. And so that's all changing for the better, and we'll see that also in a few minutes. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Number one, Process Advisor. This is back to talking about Power Automate. Its job is simply to watch telemetry from your tenant and let you know when people are repeating themselves. And sometimes they like to repeat themselves a lot. And so when they do that, it can suggest how to automate those processes. So here we see a screen about an invoice submission process. It makes use of 8 apps on 365, only one of which happens to be a legacy invoicing app. And we can see it's actually, like all legacy business owner driven apps, it's in Excel. And it also tells us people spend about an average of just over a half hour on each and every invoice. And so this, my friends, it's an opportunity for process automation. And so these are the kinds of insights we can see. We can take this and say, hey, I can build a flow or a logic app that can orchestrate across all these processes, have approvals, and move things from one place to the other. Or maybe it's even a desktop automation scenario because I see Excel producing something that's next validated in Acrobat Reader and so on. And then they're communicating results in Teams. And maybe we can automate some of those connections so users aren't doing that wire up themselves. And those are the kinds of opportunities we can start to identify. Power BI embedded, because this is one of my favorite things, and actually, working with clients today to make this happen. So it's existed before. Now we can embed in Power BI analysis into more places, though. Jupyter Notebooks was the big announcements. You can guess other notebooks may follow in the months or years ahead, but other places where we can embed these insights. For the citizen developers, this means we could rapidly prototype new visualizations and dashboards. The client I'm working with right now, they've had a public website that where they provide some reports back. They do a lot of coaching for people based on survey responses, and they wanted more beautiful, modern graphs and charts and drillable content to display back to people. So they can start to move the tools around themselves and kind of get the screens that they like on Power BI, and we can embed them directly into their website. So if they have a custom thing for a certain client who wants to see a certain report, they can start to build those themselves, and they don't have to call on a developer every single time because the reports are already embedded in the site. They can just create the updates. You can still have all the vetting you like, but it's better. And the barriers to entry are lower. So where before that would have cost them starting at $7,000 a month, or 20 a year, whatever the numbers were. If you've built on Azure, that A1 is as simple as it gets, and Gen 2 licensing now starts at A1 scale with a single core and 3 gig. So, and that serves thousands of requests a day. And depending on the speeds that you need, that might be good enough for that commercial site. And then it scales up in an economical way also. The next slam that against Power BI embedded was that, well, it's great to have, but and I can scale up rapidly, but scaling back, I've got to wait a day for this thing to trip backwards again. And that's changed. So now it scales down nearly as quickly as you can scale up. And these others auto scale rules and thresholds and stuff that we had before are all, again, more accessible, and the entry level is much, much lower for your customers and for your business and whomever you're working with. And then on the dev side, there's a nice playground. You can think of this kind of like Postman for Power BI, if you will. Lets you interact with your APIs and see the results right away. It's a beautiful way to build. Now, what does all this stuff look like when I embed into a website? And here's an example of a Azure website.net. You can download the source from GitHub. I'll share out this deck. You could catch my Twitter handle at the end of the presentation again. And run this for your own self, and you can see that everything from dark modes to all the different things that you would like to put on a website. There's a CLI. If there's we talked about Visual Studio integration, and what would Visual Studio integration be without the ability to type at a terminal? We see a couple of interesting things here. One is Dataverse. That's what this is all built on. Now, so when Power BI was first developed, it was developed both for the Office world and for the Dynamics world. So they built it on the Dynamics platform using this thing called Common Data Services. Last year that got renamed to Dataverse. And as it turns out, these other platforms, Power Apps, Power Automate, all the rest, they're built on the same platform underneath that Dynamics, it turns out, is built on. So this gives us some great integration points back and forth between the two. And then, as you would expect, we also have all these great kind of build tools for packaging and releasing solutions, and it's all thought of as well. So finally, even Visual Studios, you'll see, becomes a first-class citizen. PowerShell and the command line becomes first-class citizen in working on these solutions. Which brings us to those Visual Studio extensions. Let's take you straight into what they look like here. We see it working. We're working on a YAML file for some configuration. It's actually more powerful than that. We can actually see the entire packages broken out, but I guess I didn't grab that screenshot. But it really helps you see everything gets packaged up, and with IntelliSense on over a lot of it, to help you build smarter, better, and at a much finer grain of control than we ever had before. Power App portals, also super cool. Public websites that connect into some of this internal data, but it's managed on the Azure website, and so we can plug into the same great security and all those other wrappers that we had before. If I want to build a customer portal for invoice submissions, for whatever, now we have this great platform, and it's called what did I say? Power App portals, where I could build these public portals and have secure authentication against the public auth providers and all kinds of other things. Again, there's a really great sample app that you can plug into and check this all out for yourself. Then we have Power Platform ALM accelerators, where before that solution model and the deployment and release was painful. There's a great example of to get complete with the starter kit that shows you how to use the seamless extensibility now that exists between the Power Platform, GitHub, and Azure. Something we've been asking for a heck of a long time, and we finally have it. As promised also in the intro, you can build your own connectors to any of those data endpoints and make them first-class citizens in the connector store, let's call it. Excuse me. And there's some great new skilling opportunities, the links of which will be provided here. That white paper, the Fusion Dev ebook, as promised, is also included there, and a link to the Power Apps developer plan. And then there's all kinds of AI developments. I'm going to skip through this really quickly because I'm mostly out of time, basically out of time, and we want to get on to the next stuff. But the basic idea is I'm building an interface here. I want to have a search box. I tell it search text box with contacts, by full name. Next thing I know, I have a working search implementation here where the name starts to be typed, and it interpreted the function of the query that had to be created on the back end. That's pretty cool. That's pretty simple. Great for end users, as we said, but also when we get to things like, what's the query language? What's the function I'm looking for? We can express these things, as we're learning the thing as developers, and it gives us the right way to do it under the covers. And so for another type of interface, there's another way to go also. Let's do this backwards. Let's do it by example. Let's say I want to display my name's first name, last initial. All I have to do is give it a bunch of examples, and it trains the AI. Here's what I'm looking for, first name, last initial. It starts to get the hang of this, and next thing I know, it builds the function of the formula that makes it happen. Magic. As a developer, hey, I could still charge you for that time, but luckily it'll only take me about 15 minutes, and we can use the rest of the time to build some more interesting things. All right, what's next? And so that's the example. That's the scoop. The last announcement was that Power Effects can now be used in other contexts. We have you can read it. Makers can create their own commands using Power Effects in the Excel-like formula bar. I can express logic in these places. It's something that you do in Power BI often is create calculated columns. This lets you express those calculated columns in English and see if it's what you want. And it makes it much simpler to express. And not only can I do that in Power BI, which will actually be replacing the current functionality later in the year, but I can do this right away with any of these Dataverse data sets, these Dataverse entities. And I can create calculated columns in the Dataverse, which is a proper relational data store, and it's, again, magic. So that's the scoop. There are links here to join the developer plan. Join both the Microsoft 365 developer plan program for a free E5 tenant, and also the Power Apps developer plan now, which is brand new, if you want to get some extra control over what you can build with Power Apps. Thank you so much, and on to the next.
Thank you, Eli. That's great. Ton of great resources coming up. So next coming up after Eli is Bruno Capuano, who will be speaking about everything AI. Bruno, if you're ready, you can share your screen.
Sure. Here I am. Give me 1 second. I'm looking for my screen here. So there it is. Let me know when you can see my screen. It should be me on my office.
We can see you. Hi,
Perfect.
Bruno.
So, hey, hello, everyone. So thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. By the way, thanks to Eli, Olivier, Callon, and Roy. Everybody's talking about AI. So you basically, I think you said stole my thunder here, but I was starting to prepare a set of slides, a set of ABCs of what was presented about AI, but I decided to give this a try. Let's try something different. So let's try to figure out, I will strongly suggest everyone who is looking for what's happened on build to go to the Book of News. The Book of News is an amazing resource that Microsoft started to do. I can't remember who was the first event, but at Ignite, at Build, every major event, you have the Book of News, and you have a lot of content there. And you have basically a small 3 lines about what are the major announcements around AI, data and AI, development, or other technologies. So this is super cool. I am going to basically do a quick review of a couple of main topics that I really like about the Book of News, and then I'm going to show you what I think is the most amazing product that was presented at Microsoft this year. And it's very similar, it's very close to what just Eli mentioned about GPT-3. So, Book of News, amazing table of contents. You have a lot of sections here. Let's start with Azure AI, my domain, what the stuff that I know. And again, what I just mentioned, you have a different set of lines here, and then you have links to go deep. What I really like here about some improvement around the bot service, a couple of things around the community services, but the Azure Metric Advisor is an amazing tool. Now we have an AI agent in the back for us, basically analyzing the time series of data and how we are using Azure, and as soon as it detects an anomaly, one resource that is not following a pattern and starts to do a lot of consumption or whatever, it triggers an alert so we know that something is happening here. It's used a very specific algorithm to do this anomaly detection. It's not anomaly, but it's very close. But it's something that if you can give it a try, try to spend some time, try to figure out how to use, because if you are using Azure, this is an amazing service to help you control your consume. Then you have, what I really like about last build is that Microsoft pick up a couple of services that we know around, in example, community services, and start to basically put them stack one together, like in Lego mode, so we have more control about them. Video Analyzer is one of them. Right now, Video Analyzer gives us video analytics in one side, so then we have the video indexer. Now we have a full solution, basically, that is in preview right now, that pick up all of these services that we use to manually connect in our own. We need to basically develop this. Now it's all part of Video Analyzer. And in the same idea to put things together to make things easier for us, they presented Azure Applied AI Services, which is basically, if myself as an organization, I work in an organization, an enterprise, and I want to do something around AI, this is a set of boxed elements that I'm going to use, and they are very easy to start. So here we have access to community services, because we can do a lot of stuff here with community services. But we have also access to a specific task model, like the video one that I just talked, or we can even extend this model using Azure Machine Learning, using basically doing code, writing our Python code there to extend these services, and it's all under the enterprise layer. We talk, and we have here a common layer for managed security, managed access, managed consumption, a lot of stuff. And as I said, it's kind of amazing. Give this a try. It's kind of hard to understand how is, at the beginning when you see this, you say, but basically it's a box with a lot of services that I already know. take a look at the client story, at the customer reference, or how the client are using this, and you will see, oh, this is the way that we can do this. Because in example, here is the place that we can see that in Azure Machine Learning, we have, let me scroll down a little, we have these managed endpoints. Azure Machine Learning is an amazing place that data scientists and people who are working in machine learning basically have all of the tools in a single place. It's great, it's amazing. The managed endpoints are the tool that we basically were asking and missing, and now it's here to, as I mentioned, manage security, manage consumption. You have, as part of this model, you have the model that right now, using this technology, are supporting the PowerFX language. I hope, Eli, I am saying this right. The PowerFX supporting the Power App. So this is the place that the GPT-3 trained model to understand, I want to make a search box to search customer sort by country or whatever. Here it is. And there are a lot of stuff here happening around this. And we mentioned GPT-3. GPT-3 is an amazing technology. It's based on transformers, machine learning. We can talk a lot about here. But during build, Microsoft basically presented but didn't make the formal presentation about a super cool product, which is GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot is an assistant that runs in Visual Studio Code that helps us to code faster. So let's do a hello world of Copilot. I hope that the size is fine. So this is Visual Studio Code. This is a Python file. We can do Python, we can do C#, we can do JavaScript. Copilot was trained in a lot of public code available in GitHub and other sources. So here I can basically write a comment, sorry, coming from C# and write a hello world program. You see that is suggesting me right now to complete this. So I will add a tab and I will have print hello world. So this is the hello world of Copilot. I don't like to do this. What I like to do is write a function to add two numbers together. So basically it's going to, I can go def and I will have def AB, then I go here and I will have return AB. Let's correct the indentation. Copilot is analyzing the context of the code that I am writing, and it's reacting to my comments or even to the code that I am writing in real time to give me help. How this works, it was, as I mentioned, trained using GPT-3. We can do a full session around GPT-3. Transformers are amazing, but it's super intelligent. So in example, if in my comments, I write something like this. I start to number together and return the sum as a string. So I can go here and take a look here. What it's doing is, because I add the second comment that I want to convert the data type to a string, is going to basically do this conversion here before return this. If I want to tweak it a little more, and if the result is lower than 10, then add 45 here. I will have here again another function that basically reads my comments and add two numbers. If the result is lower than 10, it's going to add 45. Otherwise, it's going to return the main value. So this is Copilot. This is amazing. As I mentioned, this works on your code. And this is hello world. This is basically, let's add two numbers. Let's take a look at what's happened if I ask for, hey, write a function to add. Let's don't do this. Let's go here, add, oops, sorry. I can define here something like this, and Copilot will automatically read the intention of the name of my function, and it's going to suggest me what I can do. So I will say here, add 4 numbers, and I will have this result, where it's going to basically do sum 0, and it's going to require input 1, input 2, input 3, input 4, and it's going to print this. When I am defining the function, I will have options here. As you can see, I can do ABC with parameters or no parameters. If I change, I can see some options. I can even go here and see how is Copilot synthesizing the result that is going to share with me. So I can see that I have several different solutions here. I can go for A, B, C. I like this one because it's just numbers. So there is a full set of activities that I can do. And when it's useful here, let's switch to a real scenario. So I've been working with threads for a long time. I've been working with threads in C++, in C#, in Python for a very long time, but I always forget how to work with threads. I always forget the syntax here. So I can write something like this, like start a thread using the perform action function. I am going to do this, and I will have here the creation of a thread, threading start, and of course, I'm sorry, and then I will have the start. This is a typo here. That's it. Oh, okay, suggesting me to wait for the thread to finish. Yes, that makes sense. So join, if I have other threads, it's going to read my context. I have this function here in the top already written. It's not doing anything. It's a very simple function, but it's going to basically help us to do this. How this works? How can you test this? So if you go to copilot.github.com, you can sign up for the preview. Right now, it's not available to everyone, but you get into the waiting list, and maybe tomorrow, or maybe on the end of July or August, you're going to get access here. But it's important to understand how this works. And I'm going to go very fast because I only have less than a minute here. Copilot uses an AI model named Codex. This is trained on GPT-3. And it's not searching the web to give me results. It's not searching GitHub or Stack Overflow to give me the best result for my query. It's basically, this is a model that was trained on these data sources, was trained on that code. It learned from that code, and based on everything that it learned, it basically suggested me code to do this. So I strongly encourage everyone to go here, copilot.github.com. This is an amazing technology. This is going to change the way that we are working. It's opened a lot of questions about what we are doing. And hey, my two takeout for you is go to Copilot and take a look at the book of news, which is also a great resource to take a look what's happened on build. And I'm on time. I am ready to give space to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you, Bruno. That was a lot of content in a short amount of time and a great demo. So thank you for that. So coming up next, we have 3 more speakers to close out the session. Following Bruno will be Max Yermakhanov, who will be speaking about DevOps. So Max, if you can share your screen, we can get started.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. So just give me a second, share my screen. Come on, you can do it. You can see my screen.
It's loading, it's coming in.
See my screen?
Almost there.
My apologies. I am in the middle of the Canadian Rockies in the hotel, and the Wi-Fi hopefully is going to be good enough.
Yeah, your screen's sharing, so you're all set, Max.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Max Yermakhanov, and I'm here to talk about the DevOps-related highlights from the Microsoft Build 2021. A little bit about myself. And I need to learn how to click the button. For those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Max Yermakhanov. I'm a consultant at ObjectSharp. I'm a GitHub and Azure DevOps MVP. I'm a GitHub Premier Partner. I have a blog that has been existed for a while. I have Twitter, which I don't tweet as much, but I at least blog. So, and I've been working in DevOps field for a while. All right, so let's jump right in. Before I jump into my main topic, I want to have a few honorable mentions for the sessions that happened in Build 2021 that I'm not necessarily going to delve into, right? There was a session on the environment blueprints from the Quali Cloud Shell Colony. That was a session where they talked about how you can accelerate and speed up your development by using the self-service portal and the blueprints, and allowing developers to speed up the environments when they need to based on the blueprints that you provided for them, right? And that system has everything. It has the initial data load, it has RBAC, it has, again, it's self-service portal, it cost management and so on and so forth. It's really, really fancy. And again, you can do a lot of things if you don't want to build your own. Another session is on the integrating of Azure DevOps into Datadog to get the real-time visibility into your CI/CD pipeline. What I particularly liked about session is the browser tests and the real-time user monitoring. It was actually really cool. Incorporating the next session I liked was about the incorporating DevOps practices into your machine learning. It helped. They were talking about how you can augment your data science teams and allow them, help them to operationalize their data models and help them work faster, better, and a lot more reliable. Actually, again, as everybody knows, machine learning is it's hot right now. Another session that I liked was the session on the Splunk, and that's the session that was again, I'm sure everybody knows Splunk. It's excellent monitoring solution that allows you to get the end-to-end visibility across your full application lifecycle. And that's, again, the demo was really nice. The last but definitely not least is the session on the Azure Stack, HCI, and how you can now manage the again, build, manage, and just operate your Kubernetes on premise using Azure Stack, using best practices and everything that you can do in Azure. All right, and those are my honorable mention. Now back to my favorite, and my favorite top session was the scaling DevSecOps using GitHub and Azure. Again, DevSecOps, it's on the rise as well. Everybody wants to shift their security left, so they want to empower the developers and catch all the bugs and the security vulnerabilities early. Empower the developers to get them to allow them to do that, and you can again, GitHub has a lot of functionality in that area, like GitHub Advanced Security, Dependabot, secret scanning, and so on and so forth. Like, but it now added the new functionality that you can publish you can scan your images that you build using GitHub Actions for vulnerabilities. You can display those results inside the pipeline, and you can the workflow. I'm sorry, and you can act accordingly inside the workflow. But you can also publish those results inside the Azure Security Center and let surface that information in Azure Security Center, which will allow the rest of your company to be aware of this of your findings and to act accordingly, right? Because again, there's a lot of power and flexibility inside the Azure Security Center. So what I wanted to do next is I wanted to do a demo, and I'm going to jump back out, and I'm going to go to so I have this GitHub repo, and the GitHub repo is the simple ASP.NET. I'm sorry, the .NET Core 5 website. All it does is just shows you the like the web server data and session data and so on and so forth. So it has the Docker file, and then it has a bunch of manifests that allows us to deploy into the Kubernetes. And what I'm going to do next is, because I want to make that change and to tell you that it's actually really live data. So I'm going to go ahead. So instead of me editing this over here, what I want to do next is I want to go ahead and open my code space. If you guys haven't tried the code space, you definitely should. And I have it open over here. So I'm going to close it over here. Okay, so it's going to take a second to load. While it's loading, what I also have is, oops, not this. I have, yeah. So I have this. I have the research group that I created, and inside the research group, I have the Kubernetes cluster. Again, this is the demo specifically built for the demo cluster, so it's not necessarily locked down as it should be, but again, it's demo. So, and there's also the ACR container registry. Again, it's there so we can publish the image into it. So now we have ourselves the code space open. And again, if you haven't tried it, you should. It's really, really cool. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go make a small change. I'm going to make the small change in my file. As you can see, I'm working inside the feature 1 branch because we should not work from master. So test from, let's say hello from build 2021. I'm going to go ahead and say, OK, I've made this change. I want to commit this. This is demo. And I'm going to add my, so this is the change I've made. As you can see, the line I added. And I'm going to commit it. I'm going to go ahead and push it. I specifically in my workflows, I don't have any automatic triggers configured because I wanted to show you guys that yes, you can. And in this case, again, my my workflow itself is inside the GitHub and the workflow folder, and it's inside build scan deploy YAML file, and it has all the steps. We can go for them as soon as I kick it off. So I'm going to go ahead and kick off my session. So there's 2 ways how I can kick it off. I can go ahead and run it ad hoc as I see fit. And that's the way I'm also going to do. That's the way I'm going to do it because I wanted to build it from specific branch because I don't want to deal with master. And I'm going to run this workflow. It's going to run. It's going to get kicked off. And in a second, you will see a link that now my build workflow is running. It's going to build, and then it's going to deploy for me. So now my build job is running. While this is running, I also have another way of triggering things inside my YAML file. And that's the one that says you can trigger using tags. So when you create a new tag, so for example, in GitHub, I can go ahead and create a new release, which is essentially enhanced tag. OK, and when I create this new release, as soon as I do that, it's going to also trigger the workflow. But because I wanted to show you that. Again, when you create a tag, again, I could have created it from this branch, but I usually create the tags for master, so I didn't want to break the best practices. How am I doing on time?
You're just on time now, so if you could wrap up quickly, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to go ahead and build. I need like 2 more minutes because it's going to go ahead and build. Once this is built, it's going to deploy. And when it deploys, oh, I was silly. I'm sorry. I wanted to be demo to be a little. I should have had 15 minutes, but because I was late, I got down to 10. But those are the 2 steps that's going to go ahead and run this. So this step is going to go ahead and run the container scan for me, and this step is going to go ahead and publish those results into Azure Security Center. So in the end, it's going to look like this. So this, because the steps are commented out, I don't see it here. But if I show you the one from before, which was sometime today, yesterday, I forgot the last time I run it, yesterday, let's say, and here's my step. In here, I have, and where are you? Not here. Sorry, just one more down. So this one. So this one is gonna go ahead and run it. So, oh, come on. No. I'm sorry about this. Just one more second. So there you are. And my timer is telling me I'm out of time. So in here, what it's gonna do, it's gonna go ahead and let me just go a little bit more. So let's say this one. So it's going to go ahead and run the build. Inside the build, it's going to run my container scan. And inside my container scan, I can stop my pipeline based on the results. And in this case, I wanted to keep going. So it found this results, and results look like this. So my image has a lot of vulnerabilities, right? And but I wanted to keep going, so it kept going, and it went ahead and published my test results into the Azure Security Center. So inside my Azure Security Center, it was, it found this vulnerability. It found all the images that it scanned. And again, because it published directly into Azure Security Center, now this information can be acted on. So everybody knows that there is a vulnerable image inside the container. Inside the container that was published into your cluster. So you can catch those ahead of time. Again, I find that the fact that it allows you to empower the developers to shift security left and catch those things early, it's a very, very big deal. It saves you a lot of time, a lot of cycles, a lot of money. And that's all I have for the demo. And thank you very much. I'm sorry I took extra 3 minutes. Thank you all. And I'll be online for a few extra minutes if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Max. Hope you're enjoying your time in the Rockies, and no worries about the extra 3 minutes. All good. So coming up next, we have Obi Oberoi, who will be sharing entity framework. So Obi, thank you so much, and you can take it away. Yep, you're live.
Okay, here we go. Thanks very much, Simon. All right, so thanks for waiting, everyone. So my name is Obi Oberoi. I'm a former MVP, currently a member of the MVP Connect. I'm an independent consultant. I've been working in the .NET space for 15 years, and I am also the founder of Mississauga.NET user group. Some of the members might be here already. So this is my blog, obioberoi.com, and you can also reach me on Twitter at obioberoi. All right, so let's begin. So our agenda, actually, this is going to be pretty much a fire hose, type of a demo, because we are really hard pressed with time. So first things first, what's new in EF Core 5.0? I'll show you a couple of quick demos, and then I'll point you to the resources. And I'm not sure how much time we'll have, but we'll see if there is any time left for Q&A. Okay, so first things first. EF Core 5.0 targets .NET Standard 2.1. Now, this is actually very, very important. And the reason for that, for this is if you are going to be working with EF Core 5.0, forget about .NET Framework completely, okay? Because 5.0 targets 2.1, not 2.0. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. Okay, another thing is this is actually one of the most sought after features that the development community had requested, and that is to introduce a many-to-many relationship. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, what's a big deal? Well, you know what? In the prior versions, right from EF6 through to EF Core 3.1, we did have that support, but it was not many-to-many. What we had to do was we had to kind of introduce a junction table, and you know the drill. So basically, just to sort of show you what I mean by many-to-many, I hope you can all see my screen and you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. So so I'm going to actually show you what many-to-many really entails. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a couple of POCO classes, one of which is the movie class, and the other one is the genre class. Now, these two classes, I actually have defined a many-to-many relationship in here. Okay, and the way you do that, you don't really have to do anything extraordinary. Okay, all you do is, so we know that movie and genre are many-to-many. All you have to do is you basically have to create a list or a collection or a list, whatever it is, of the other one, which is a genre. And the reverse is also true for the genre class, where you actually create a list of movies. Okay, that's all there is to it. I mean, if you were to actually do this in 3.1, you would have to do something like this. You would do something like this. You would.
Obi, sorry to interrupt you during your session, but if you could increase your font size or zoom in a little bit, I think we could see it a little bit clearer.
Sure. Any better?
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
Oh, no problems. Okay. So basically, this is what you would do if you were to actually do a one-to-many relationship by introducing this junction, but who needs this? We don't need this anymore. So this is good enough, right? Okay, so having done this, here, this is just a console app. What I've done is I've actually created some seeded data, and then in the interest of time, what I also did, I actually created a migration. And as you know, to create a migration is actually very straightforward. All you do is you just use this command, add migration, give it a name, and off you go, right? And the next thing you want to do is you just want to update your database such that all of the areas that you have defined your POCO classes in, your seeded data, everything gets materialized in the database. So in here, let me just show you real quick what I have defined. So as you can see over here, on configuring, this is actually my database context. I've defined the connection string. And once I run my migrations, update the database, and run this app, basically what it did, it actually went and created the database and the tables for me, including the data that I had seeded. So as you can see, it has actually gone and created a third table called genre movie. Okay, now mind you, we didn't have this in the class at all. All we had defined were the two POCO classes, genre and movie. Okay, and it actually went and created this third table, which in essence is your junction table. So that is what many-to-many table is all about. Okay, so moving on, let's see what else we got. Okay, so backing fields. So backing fields basically allow entity framework to read and write to a field rather than a property. I mean, that's essentially what a backing field is. And this can be especially useful, when you have encapsulation in the class, and that basically restricts the access to the data by application code. So these backing fields, are typically discovered if you declare. So this is basically my, as you can see, this is my block class. And what it looks for is, and there's a convention. So, it uses camel casing, but if you actually put an underscore before your property name, or in this case, the variable name, it infers that, to be a backing field. So this is actually one of the options. The other thing you can do is you can also use data annotations. So here, as you can see, I've got an attribute called backing field, and I'm saying that this is the backing field for this variable validate URL. That's it. Okay. So this is option number 2. And the third option, you can use Fluent API. So here in on model creating, inside my context, I'm saying that, hey, I've got a field which is underscore validate URL, something that I had defined in my class. So that's a backing field for you. And the next thing is keyless entity types. Now, I think you would agree. In the past, we've had to sort of create partial classes and this, that, and the other, but not anymore. You can simply, as you can see from the code here, you can basically use the attribute as part of the data annotations right above the class and call it keyless. That's it, and that'll be your keyless entity right there. As you can see, we don't have the ID because that's the whole point of having a keyless entity type, is to not have an ID at all. You can also use Fluent API to define that, hey, this particular entity, block post count, doesn't have a key, right? So this is the block post count class, no key at all, and you define this in the Fluent API as an option. All right, so moving on. So basically, one of the use case scenarios would be if, let's say, you wanted to map the database views that don't contain a primary key, or for that matter, like in this case, we have a table that doesn't have a primary key. All right, so just looking at my watch over here, just making sure that I have some more time to cover a few other compelling features. And then this one here is basically a simple logging. Actually, as let me just show you in the code. So this is basically the the log2 extension method, which you can use from options builder inside your database context. And as you can see, it has got multiple overloads available that you can use in different use cases. All right, so let's keep moving on. Okay, so this one is your table per type. Okay, I don't have the heading over there, but essentially this is the table per type mapping pattern, and all the types in this case are basically mapped to individual tables. So properties, for example, that belong solely to a base type or a derived type are stored in a table that maps to that type. So the entity types can essentially be mapped to different tables using the mapping attributes, as you can see over here. So we've got this base class over here. We have a couple of concrete classes that derive from the person class, and this is what you would define in your database context. Pretty standard drill, nothing extraordinary. So so there's a person class, there's a student class, and there's a teacher class. This one being the base, this one are the derived ones, but it inherits person. And then this is what actually gets transformed into SQL Server. Okay, so as you can see over here, the table for subclasses contains columns only for each non-inherited property, along with a primary key that is also a foreign key of the base class, which is the ID right here. All right, so let's keep moving on. Split queries. This is actually a very, very excellent feature. And you probably would have noticed from experience, if you are working with some very complex link expressions, because when you actually send link over, these link expressions get transformed to SQL, which gets executed in the SQL engine of your choice, whether it's MySQL or Oracle or SQL Server or what have you. Now you have the option. So basically, Microsoft has been pretty forthright. So they've said, that if you are using a pretty lengthy link expression, or your queries are complex, like in this case, it's not an overly complex. Sure enough, we're getting stuff from artists, but it includes albums and it includes tags. I mean, not a whole lot of nesting going on over here. But should you wish to actually have this query splittable, you can use this method as split query. And what it'll do is it'll basically split this query into 3 distinct select statements, as you can see over here. So there's a select here, there's a select here, and there's a select here. Okay, you don't have to do that, but Microsoft has said that if the queries are complex, number one, it affects the performance to some extent. Plus, you can expect to receive erroneous data. So just to avoid those pitfalls, when you're dealing with let's say very deep nested graphs, it's always a good idea to use as split query. Index attribute. How much time do we have left?
I would recommend that we wrap up and maybe we can share more content afterwards.
Okay, perfect. No problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so there you go. So this is the index attribute, pretty straightforward. Basically now we are at parity with the EF6. And on that note, I'd like to thank you all very much and hope to see you soon. Thank you. Over to you, Ayman.
Thank you. All right, so I know we're a little bit over, but we still have one amazing presentation left by Ashraf Gunaim, who will be speaking about Power BI. Anything that we missed from Obi Oberoy's previous presentation, we'll make sure to put that either in the YouTube description or on Meetup, so you can check that out. And without further ado, take it away, Ashraf.
Thanks, Ayman, and thanks everyone for surviving to the last but not least session. My name is Ashraf Gunaim. I work as an analytics consultant. I am the leader of the Power Platform user group community here in Toronto. Earlier this month, I was renewed for my 4th time MVP, so I'm so happy and glad and proud to be one of the Microsoft MVPs based here in Canada. So this session is about Microsoft Power BI, and I'm so happy to share with you some exciting announcement that was recently announced in the Microsoft build. And as you see, Microsoft Power BI engineering team is so committed to empower Power BI to become more of the perfect tool to drive the data culture in any organization for everyone, for every decision at any scale. So the first announcement I would like to share with you is the support of the natural language to actually generate DAX queries. So one of the biggest challenges that so many people were suffering from using Power BI is to write DAX formulas. And by embedding actually this AI feature inside Power BI, which in collaboration with OpenAI, which is GPT-3, it's allowing now Power BI to comprehend and understand the natural language and also produce like human-like natural language. So this is basically transforming native language questions to construct a DAX formula, and it's giving you visibility to the constructed formula as well to make sure that you fully understand how the formula was constructed and also the ability to adjust it the way you want. The second interesting feature is about automatic aggregation over the data warehouse. Automatic aggregation was not a new feature. It was there before, but it needed someone who really understands how the query behaves in your Power BI and build the aggregation based on that. Now, Microsoft engineering team embedded some machine learning algorithms to analyze the pattern of your query and suggest the aggregation automatically based on the behavior of your queries. And it also has the ability to learn over time and optimize actually the aggregation to get you the best performance you can expect. And this is coming soon feature as well. Also, one of the new coming soon features as well is the performance telemetry in Azure Logic Analytics, which is basically integration to Azure Logic Analytics so that you can analyze your performance and build your own metrics and KPI measures as well. Another interesting feature, which is about streaming data flow in Power BI Premium. This is currently in public preview. This is basically allowing now bringing this advanced capability to become like more self-service. It used to be done by data engineers in the past, but now as you see here, it's totally visually driven. You can connect your Power BI report to Azure Data Hub or IoT Hub automatically with a drag and drop way and embed that into your data flow and even integrate and measure the data with some other additional data sources or do some transformation or aggregation and then pass that to the visualization level and it will stream the data right away in real life to your dashboard. Another interesting feature as well is the end-to-end data loss protection. And this is now becoming like unified experience across the board, end-to-end data loss prevention and protection all the way along from any source in Azure to and inherits any privacy labels into Power BI. And when you export the data to Microsoft Office, it passes this sensitivity label as well to the output of your Power BI. It could be in Excel or PowerPoint presentation. And it passes the same privacy label all the way on. Also, there is very interesting feature here about automation, which is the deployment pipeline automation API in Power BI Premium. And this is allowing us now to integrate Power BI into DevOps tools, such as Azure DevOps or GitHub, and to enable the CI/CD process in a fully automated fashion. And you can schedule even your your tasks as well. Also, another interesting feature which is becoming like in public preview now, backup and restore feature. And this is very interesting feature to allow us now easily migrate our SQL Server Analysis Services, SAS tabular models, or Azure Analysis Services tabular model into Power BI without the need to reload the data and reinvent the wheel. Another interesting capabilities as well, it's Power BI goals. It's built-in feature now to allow the organization to build complex and comprehensive scorecard system to track the organizational goals and assign tasks and monitor the performance and have some collaboration about the performance among the team members. And it's fully integrated and embedded in Teams as well. So it's very, very interesting feature. It used to take very long time to build such a capability yourself, but now it's coming like out of the box capabilities inside Power BI. Also, one of the interesting feature here, which is becoming like generally available now, is the diagram view. In the past, we used to build the pipeline in a sequence of steps to actually do data transformation. This feature now is allowing us to see that visually, and also you can see the entire pipeline from the source through all the transformation steps, allowing you to drag and drop and integrate the data, measure the data from so many other sources, and pass that to the output and the final stage of the data before you present it or take it to the visualization level. And as you see, it's very, very interesting feature to see the data lineage from end to end in a very nice and visual way, and also allow you to interact with the steps here using drag and drop without the need to write any code. Another interesting feature that became generally available recently as well is the full integration with Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So this will allow us now to prepare the data quickly with a common data model, and also it makes our data reusable after all the transformation steps. So there is no need again to redo any transformation steps or reinvent the wheel again, because once you transform and prepare the data and put it in Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, you open the clean version of the data to be shared among any other Azure service or application, because it's centralized in one place and it's open to be integrated with any other tool or service in Azure. So there is no need to build multiple pipelines or multiple transformation steps to get to one destination. Once you develop the pipeline, it's one and forever. Another cool feature for data scientists, again, now it's becoming generally available feature, which is the integration with Jupyter notebooks. So in the past, data scientists used to write like their Jupyter notebook using Python in a very and write their script and visualize it inside the Jupyter notebook. One of the limitations that data scientists they had in the past is it's cumbersome to visualize the data using Python, and it's not interactive. So you cannot really build interactive visual inside the Jupyter notebook. Now with this open source Python package, it allows now data scientists to integrate Power BI inside their Jupyter notebook. And after they do their data transformation and data manipulation steps using Python, they can pass the output to Power BI visual, and it inherits all the interactive capabilities and all the advanced visualization capabilities in Power BI inside Jupyter notebook without leaving the experience of Jupyter notebook. Another interesting feature is paginated reports. As you know, paginated reports used to be in a separate environment developed by a separate, which is the report builder. Now, this feature is allowing us to embed the visualization, paginated report visualization inside Power BI, and this will allow us to fully integrate the paginated report inside Power BI itself, and it's fully integrated with all the built-in features, interactive features inside Power BI. So as you see on the left side, we have multiple visuals and the chart and filters in Power BI. And once you click and interact with the left side of the visual, it already passes the parameters behind the scene, and it filters actually the paginated report on the right side and filter the data and narrow down the data to get you exactly what you want. It's a fully integrated feature inside Power BI itself without the need to leave the Power BI environment. That's pretty much it. It was so quick, but thank you everyone again for surviving to the last session, and I'll pass it now to Ayman. Thanks everyone, and looking forward to seeing you next year in Microsoft Build 2022.
All right, thank you, Ashraf, and thank you to all our speakers for today. That was great, a ton of great updates. We are recording this session, so if there's something you want to go back to, we'll definitely have the recording up on YouTube tomorrow on Microsoft Reactor. So I just wanted to put the agenda up really quickly for any of the attendees. All the links that were shared and links to contact any of the attendees or the speakers, their content or their slides, everything is on that QR code, so feel free to scan that and that link. And without further ado, thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining us today. Bye.